එදිනෙදා ඔබේ මුළු සිරුරටම රැකවරණයක්. සුදේශී කොඹ සබන්.
ලෙන්ගතුකම වැඩි කරගන්න ලව්ජු රුපියල් 50 අඩු කළා.
මාමේ එන්න අපිට එකක් බොමු.
Tonight, leaving no stone unturned, Easter attacks PCOI releases unseen CCTV footage of Zion Church attacker. Relief on the horizon, the finance depositors to be repaid from Monday. High praise for Sri Lanka's vaccinations. The President addresses the Global Vaccine Summit. In discussion, Foreign Ministry denies that 2 Kuwait migrant workers committed suicide as First at 9 explores the topic of repatriation. All that and much more coming up on First at 9, this Thursday the 4th of June 2020.
From AdaDerana, this is AdaDerana First at 9.
Nava Sunlight Sakura, then Dikukal Pavatina Sakura Mal Suandin.
Live from Studio 24 in Colombo.
And a very warm welcome. This is First at 9, your English news service on AdaDerana 24. President Gotabaya Rajapaksa has instructed relevant officials to ensure that returnees from foreign countries are only sent for quarantine after the results of PCR tests conducted at the airport are made available. The head of state issued these directives during a discussion with members of the task force entrusted with COVID-19 control and medical consultants at the Presidential Secretariat today. He also insisted that everyone who seeks to return to the island nation will have the opportunity to do so.
During the meeting with members of the task force on COVID-19 control and medical consultants, the President instructed them to send returnees from foreign countries for quarantine only after results of PCR tests conducted at the airport itself are known. He also said to accommodate them at a separate location equipped with all the necessary facilities until the test results are released. Issues emerged during the conduct of PCR tests and sending returnees from abroad, especially those who are from Middle East for quarantine, were discussed in depth at the meeting. It was also decided to set up a laboratory at the airport premises in order to speed up obtaining results of PCR tests. Since the pandemic may last for a considerable time, President highlighted the importance of having such a facility at the airport. It was also decided to explore the possibility of conducting PCR tests in relevant countries themselves, with the direct mediation of the Sri Lankan government or with the support of those countries. The President said that opportunities should avail as soon as possible for everyone who wishes to return to the motherland.
And to talk about more on the repatriation issues, we have invited a guest to our studios. The Ministry of Foreign Relations is denying social media reports that 2 Sri Lankan migrant workers in Kuwait have taken their own lives. It says that there have been 2 recent suicides of migrant workers, but they were from the Philippines and India. Calls of repatriations from Sri Lankans living abroad intensified recently in the backdrop of COVID-19, and the government has been working towards ensuring their return. And the topic has gained further momentum with a considerable number of recent returnees testing positive for coronavirus. Now, to talk about the subject of repatriation, I have with me here in our studios Acting Director General on Overseas Sri Lankans at the Ministry of Foreign Relations, Anzul Jan, who is here with me in studio. Good evening. Thank you for joining us, Anzul.
Good evening, Indveri.
I think we just saw the President also talking about the question of Sri Lankans returning to Sri Lanka, but you are overseeing the Contact Sri Lanka portal. You see what our Sri Lankan expatriates want. What is your observation?
We see 48,100 desperate Sri Lankans wanting to come back to Sri Lanka because most of them have run out their funds and without job, some of them have been terminated.
Right.
And they are desperate that they need to get back because although our embassies have tried to talk to the employees, some of those companies are closing, and therefore they have no other way but to return home.
There are many Sri Lankans whose visas have expired, and these countries do not wish to extend them. What kind of mediation and intervention will Sri Lanka's foreign ministry do? Will you be exploiting all possible diplomatic channels and avenues to work out something for Sri Lankans?
Our embassies have already contacted the host countries, and they are in discussion, and most of the countries have extended the visas till repatriation takes place, but some of the countries have not reciprocated that kind of extension of visas. So most of the some will have to pay penalties because they have been working without a visa for a long time,
right?
And even those people are more vulnerable, and they want to come back, and this is going to be a real problem for those who are without visas.
So does this mean there is an expedited process here in place?
With regard to
the repatriation of Sri Lankans and also sorting out their questions, their concerns, especially as you said, they are in a very vulnerable state, as you say.
Absolutely. Now, when we look at the Contact Sri Lanka portal, we see that there are issues what they are going through. Some of those Sri Lankans had just finished their contract, and they have sold all their belongings, and they were ready to board the flight. And they are one of the most vulnerable categories. And some of these Sri Lankans are already on the streets, and they don't have any shelter, and they don't have food. So these are the vulnerable categories in the Middle East among the migrant workers.
How does the foreign ministry look at the recent influx of migrant workers who test positive for COVID-19? The president just a short while ago, as we started this bulletin, we spoke about his stance on PCR tests and how that procedure should continue. But how is the foreign ministry looking at this, now, especially with a lot of discussion within the country about foreign arrivals, expatriates returning?
I think this discussion started with the Kuwait numbers. Now, if you look at out of the 466, 379 have been identified as positive. But this is a unique situation where they were in a camp. They were put in the camp on between 21st and 25th of April, and they were only repatriated on the 19th of May. So it's almost 1 month. So they have been vulnerable for that 1 month, and it's a unique case. And we should not look at it as the yardstick to measure everyone who are outside. We have to look at it as a unique situation, and vulnerability is all over, and it can happen to anyone. And so the Middle East is like over the media.
Right.
This is the particular incident that has been repeatedly said over and over again, and foreign ministry takes the unique position that it's only a one-off incident,
right?
And all those who are coming from all the flights, only very few have been identified as positive, and that doesn't mean the whole of Middle East is affected. And they will test positive.
Again, when the foreign ministry considers for repatriation Sri Lanka's, what is the process? I'd like to know, because you see all the grievances of our expatriate community, and that this is a very emotional situation also about our countrymen. But again, there must be a process that you deal with. Who do you give preference to? Is it to the high risk community, or is it to those who are tested positive or who may be vulnerable, or to those who have lost their employment, or the kind of groups who have not been able to extend their visa?
Now, we have not looked at those who have shown that they are positive, because that has not come into the discussion, because nobody is telling us that they are positive. Now, we choose the vulnerable categories based on where they are located and to which category they belong to. Now we have 5 categories like student category, the short term, the migrant workers who have lost their jobs.
Right.
And who are vulnerable. And when we say migrant workers, it need not be in the Middle East itself. It can be faraway place as in Turks and Caicos, to Fiji, to Papua New Guinea.
Right.
So all those Sri Lankans who are outside working are considered as migrant workers. And if they have lost their jobs, then they are in the vulnerable sector.
Right. And will there be a proactive measure again once, this is a post-COVID question. Obviously our Sri Lankans, they account for most of our foreign revenue, especially from the Middle East, the expatriate community, the workers' remittances. So we need that coming in too, post-COVID, regardless of what the situation is going to be. But what are we looking at? Will the Foreign Ministry mediate in finding them a safer and more easier way to return back to where they have been employed?
You have to look at this in the background of what the countries will be doing after post-COVID, because each country will take measures as to protect their economy and how to go about. They will have their own plans. Then our ambassadors will have to negotiate with those countries whether it's going to be a quota system or whether it's as business as usual, that anybody can go and get a job when there is an offer. So ambassadors will be working hard on finding avenues and opportunities for our Sri Lankans abroad, keeping in mind that there will be other developments in the same front where jobs are concerned, because there will be a competition. There will be a lot of people who had gone back from Philippines to India to Pakistan to all the other countries. They will be vying for all these jobs, and we will have to take special care to ensure that these opportunities are also got for these Sri Lankans.
So are we sending a message of reassurance to our Sri Lankans outside that their requests will be considered in due time?
Yes, the Foreign Ministry from the inception has been working towards some form of a repatriation. As soon as the airports were closed and the government was trying to stabilize what is happening inside the country, the Foreign Ministry was looking outward and trying to figure out how we are going to get the Sri Lankans back home, especially the vulnerable sectors. That's the very reason we put out the Contact Sri Lanka portal just 1 week after the airport was closed. So we had a idea as to where are these Sri Lankans spread and what are their issues and how best we can help them.
Right. Thank you very much, Anzal, for joining us and for discussing and for taking up the issue of overseas Sri Lankans. Anzal Jan, Acting Director General for Overseas Sri Lankans of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. She's also in charge of the Contact Sri Lanka portal set up by the Foreign Ministry for Sri Lankans living overseas to get in touch with Sri Lankan missions as well as the Foreign Ministry. Moving on to other local stories. Chief Inspector of the Criminal Investigations Department, Saman Veerasinghe, who was in charge of investigations on the explosions at the Zion Church in Batiklo on Easter Sunday last year, painted a detailed picture on the movements of the church attacker prior to the attacks. Chief Inspector of the CID, Saman Veerasinghe, gave evidence before the Presidential Commission of Inquiry probing the 2019 April 21st attacks. Meanwhile, the Commission also released a series of unseen CCTV footage to the media related to movements of the attacker.
Chief Inspector of the Criminal Investigations Department, Saman Veerasinghe, who was in charge of the investigations over the explosion at Zion Church, gave evidence before the Presidential Commission probing the Easter spate of terror. He said that following perusal of the surveillance camera footage along the road near the church, the attacker was identified as Mohammad Nazar Mohammad Azad. The attacker had visited Qatar and Abu Dhabi in the years of 2005 and 2012. The witness also revealed that Mohammad Azad was married to Abdul Rahim Feroza in 2012 and she died in an explosion at a house in Saindamardu following the Easter attack. He also bore witness to the fact that the mother of the attacker being in the custody of CID on charges of concealing evidence of her son by burning his photos. CID Chief Inspector Veera Singh has said that the attacker of the Zion Church and his wife had come to Colombo from Kalmune on the night of April 18, 2019, 3 days before the attack. The commission also heard that they had met Zahran Hashim, his wife and children who were residing at a housing complex named Lucky Plaza in Kolpiti, as well as the bomber of the Katuwapitia Church, Achi Muhammadu Hassoon, and his wife Zara Jasmine, alias Pulastini. Later they had visited Rilwan, the brother of Zahran, at his residence in Panadura. The witness stated that the bomber of Zion Church has boarded a bus plying from Colombo to Kalmune near the Zaira College in Maradana at 8:52 p.m. on the day before the attack. CCTV footage shows the attacker carrying a backpack and another bag. Tickets for his journey had been booked by Alauddin Ahmed Muat, who bombed the Kochikade shrine. According to CCTV footage, the bomber had disembarked at around 2:16 am on April 21st and has entered the Jumma Masjid Mosque. CCTV footage shows the bomber in front of the mosque until 4:39 am and the luggage he brought along with him were not inspected by the police mobile surveillance vehicle passing by. The CIP also revealed the attacker entering the mosque after it was opened at 4:39 am, adding that he was restless for several hours. The witness said that later at around 8:32 p.m. the bomber exits the location and makes his way to the Zion Church clad in a red-coloured t-shirt and a cap with a bag in hand and another on his back. The commission then focused on the suspect engaging in an exchange with a person affiliated with the church. The chief inspector added that the bomber had told the person with whom he had the exchange with that he wanted a prayer for his ailing mother. CIP Saman Veerasinghe told the commission that the bomber then detonated the explosives at 9:03 am inside the Zion Church. It was also revealed that the bomber's mobile phone was recovered from the blast site and its SIM card had been obtained under someone else's name. In the meantime, then OIC of the CID's Colombo North Division, Ajit Priyanta, who did the crime scene investigation at St. Anthony's Shrine in Kochikade and the residents at the Mahavila Gardens in Dematagoda, gave evidence before the commission yesterday. He said that when he made his way to the Mahavila Gardens residence in Dematagoda at around 3 p.m. on the day of the attacks, 2 explosions had already happened at the location. He added that security units were attempting to douse the fire generated by the explosion. The scene of crime officer then submitted the photographs he took inside the house to the commission and they were then released to media. Among the photographs is one with the head of the suicide bomber. Another photograph is of the lunch on the day. The Ibrahim household had sustained considerable damages owing to the explosion. The OIC of the CID's Colombo North Division told the commission that the first explosion happened in an upstairs room at the 3-story residence. He added that the explosion made a hole in the floor and there was a risk of the building collapsing as a result. Giving his take on the events, the witness said that it appeared the bomber had placed the explosives on the floor and detonated it with her children by her side while being seated on the floor. He went on to say that the second explosion happened in a space which could only fit one person. The bodies of Sub-Inspector Rohana Bandara and 2 other police officers were discovered from the scene of the explosion. The witness noted that the destroyed bodies of the bomber and the 2 children could not be identified.
Sri Lanka's challenge is to continue to maintain the national immunization program, the President tells the Global Vaccine Summit. We'll find out when we return after this break.
කොරෝනා වෛරසය පැතිරීම වළක්වන්න සබන් යොදා දෑත් සෝදන්න.
Welcome back to the news. The number of active coronavirus cases in the country went up to 939 today, with the addition of 41 fresh cases. In the meantime, a U.S. embassy official that arrived at the country had avoided undergoing PCR testing conducted at the Bandaranaike International Airport. However, commenting on the matter, spokesperson at the U.S. Embassy Nancy Van Horn confirmed that the official had abided by Sri Lanka's COVID-19 guidelines.
Sri Lanka's overall COVID-19 recoveries went up to 839 after 3 patients were given the all-clear to go home today. 41 fresh cases were also detected today, taking the island's number of active cases to 939. In the meantime, from among the 66 COVID-19 cases recorded yesterday, 31 are naval personnel, while 35 are persons who were undergoing quarantine. Out of that 35, 19 are returnees from Qatar undergoing quarantine at the Ampara quarantine facility, and 14 are returnees from Bangladesh undergoing quarantine at the Diathalawa facility. The remaining 2 are returnees from Kuwait who were undergoing quarantine at the Minaria and Trincomalee facilities. Meanwhile, from the 31 COVID-19 positive naval personnel discovered yesterday, 19 are sailors stationed at the Mulankavil Quarantine Centre, 4 are sailors who were on active duty at the Kandakadu and Mihintale quarantine centres, and the remaining naval personnel are those already undergoing quarantine. In a separate development, after attending the late Arumugan THONDAMAN'S funeral, a journalist had undergone PCR testing after developing symptoms of the virus, testing negative for COVID-19. The PCR test was conducted on the journalist after he was admitted to the Dikkwe Base Hospital in Hatton. While the journalist was being tested, 2 other persons who had associated with him were asked to self-quarantine but were later brought out of it. In the meantime, an United States Embassy official who had arrived at the Bandaranaike International Airport at 1:45 a.m. today had refused to undergo the PCR test at the airport. The official had used his diplomatic privileges to avoid testing and leave the airport. However, the U.S. Embassy took measures to inform that according to rules and regulations of the embassy, the official had to undergo 14 days of quarantine. Speaking to AdaDerana, the spokeswoman of the U.S. Embassy, Nancy Van Horn, said that the officer came to Sri Lanka after a close coordination with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Sri Lanka and was well aware of quarantine procedures and COVID-19 guidelines followed by the country. She added the visit was in line with the norms and procedures that come in the Vienna Convention. She further confirmed that the official had acted in accordance with the guidelines that are followed by the country. Meanwhile, an island-wide curfew went into effect after the curfew was imposed at 10 p.m. last night. It will stay in effect until 4 a.m. on Saturday, the 6th of June. The curfew then will continue to be imposed across the island between the hours of 10 p.m. and 4 a.m. on a daily basis until further notice.
President Gotabaya Rajapaksa today told the Global Vaccine Alliance that Sri Lanka provides easy and equitable access to quality immunization services for all children, highlighting that the challenge ahead of Sri Lanka is to continue to maintain the quality of national immunization program and timely introduction of newer vaccines as the need arises. The head of state made these remarks addressing the virtual Global Vaccine Summit 2020 this evening, which marked 20 years since the Global Vaccine Alliance.
Sri Lanka's expanded program of immunization has been institutionalized for over 3 decades and is well integrated with primary health care services. We provide easy and equitable access to quality immunization services for all children. We have a strong surveillance system, and all vaccine preventable diseases are an integral part of the communicable disease surveillance system. We also maintain very high vaccination coverage in all the districts. Sri Lanka maintains an identified budget line for immunization programs, including the purchase of vaccines. 98% of the cost is borne by the government, demonstrating financial sustainability, which is critical to the success of such programs. We are grateful that GAVI, the WHO and UNICEF are the leading international donors who have been supporting Sri Lanka financially. Sri Lanka's challenge is to continue to maintain program quality and timely introduction of newer vaccines as the need arises. We are keener than ever to safeguard our success in disease control over the last 30 years.
No fines for not paying taxes. Details after this break. Welcome back to the news. The Cabinet gave the green light for President's proposal to not fine taxpayers for their failure to pay the due income tax during the time when the country was under lockdown. Addressing the Cabinet media briefing today, Cabinet co-spokesperson Dr. Bandula Gunawardena said that people will not be fined for a period until the 20th of this month from the day the country went into lockdown. Meanwhile, touching on the situation with the collapsed The Finance Company, Dr. Gunawardena said that the repayment of its depositors will commence from Monday.
දේශීය ආදායම් දෙපාර්තමේන්තුව සාමාන්‍යයෙන් නියමිත කාලයට බදු පත්‍රිකා ඉදිරිපත් නොකිරීම බදු මුදල් නොගෙවීම යන ආදියට දඩ නියම කරනවා දේශීය ආදායම් පනතේ විධිවිධානවලට අනුව. නමුත් රට වසා තිබූ කාලය තුලදී ඒ කිසිදු දඩ මුදලක් අය නොකිරීමට ජනාධිපතිතුමා කැබිනට් අනුමැතිය ලබාගත්ත ඒ අනුව 2020 ජුනි මාස 20 වෙනිදා දක්වා වසා තිබුණ කාලය තුල ඊට පෙර කාලේ ආදායම් බදු සම්බන්ධයෙන් දඩ මුදල් පැනවීමක් නොකරන බව දැනුම් දෙන්න කැමැති. ද ෆිනෑන්ස් සමාගම ඒ ඇවර කිරීමේ කටයුතු කරන තෙක් සමාගමේ සියලුම තැන්පත්කරුවන්ට ලබන සඳුදා සිට ලක්ෂ 6 බැගින් මුදල් ගෙවීම ආරම්භ කරන බව මහා බැංකුව විසින් දැනුම් දුන්න අග්‍රාමාත්‍යතුමාට. මුළු තැන්පත්කරුවන්ගෙන් 93%ක ප්‍රශ්නය සම්පූර්ණයෙන් විසඳෙනවා. ඊට වඩා වැඩි තැන්පත්කරුවෝ ඉන්නවා 7%ක් කඩිනමින් ඒ තැන්පත්කරුවන්ගේත් මුදල් ගෙවන් නිම කිරීම සඳහා කටයුතු කරනවා. යම් කිසි මූල්‍ය ආයතනයක මුදල් තැන්පත් කළ විට ශ්‍රී ලංකා මහ බැංකුවේ වගකීම දරන්නේ ලක්ෂ 6ක් දක්වා පමණයි.
මේක මහ බැංකුවේ ප්‍රසිද්ධ නිවේදනයක් විදියට ප්‍රකාශයට පත් කරා නම් අද වෙනකොට තැන්පත්කරුවන් මේ තරම් අමාරු තත්යකට පත් වෙන්නේ නැහැ. ඒ වගේම තමයි මහ බැංකුවේ ලියාපදිංචි බැංකු තියෙනවා. මේ බැංකුවල තත්ත්වය මේ ආකාරයෙන්ද ලක්ෂ 6කට විතරද වගකීම දරන්නේ?
නැහැ. මූල්‍ය සමාගම් පාලනය යටතේ ලක්ෂ 6ක් සඳහා තැන්පත් රක්ෂණ යෝජනා ක්‍රමයක් තිබෙන බව ජනතාව මේ පිළිබඳ දැනුවත් නැහැ. බැංකු වලට එහෙම තත්ත්වයක් නැහැ. මොකද බැංකු පාලනය කරන්නේ ඊට වඩා ඊටම දැඩි සුපරීක්ෂණයක් යටතේ තමයි බැංකු පද්ධතිය පවතින්නේ. ලංකාවේ සියලුම වාණිජ්‍ය බැංකුවල කිසිදු මූල්‍ය දුෂ්කරතාවයක් හෝ බිඳවැටීමක් ඇති නොවන ආකාරයට හොඳින් වාණිජ්‍ය බැංකු හා විශේෂිත බැංකු මෙහෙයවනවා.
පැහැදිලිවම මෙම මූල්‍ය සමාගම් වල තත්ත්වය පිළිබඳව සහ ජනතාවට පෙර දැනුවත් නොකිරීමක් පිළිබඳව අපි ඇත්තටම මහ බැංකුවේ අවධානය යොමු කළා. එහිදී ඔවුන් අපිට ප්‍රකාශ කළ කාරණේ තමයි මීට වසර 3කට පමණ පෙර සිට ද ෆිනෑන්ස් සමාගමේ මූල්‍ය තත්ත්වය පිළිබඳව තැන්පතුකරුවන්ට අඛණ්ඩව දැනුම් දීම් කළ බව. එහිදී ඔවුන් නැවත ප්‍රකාශ කරනවා මෙම සමාගම් දෙක හැරෙන්නට ඊයේ ඉදිරිසිංහ සමාගමට අනුබද්ධ ආයතනයත් ද ෆිනෑන්ස් සමාගමත් හැරෙන්නට කිසිම ප්‍රශ්නයක් නැති බවට බොහොම පැහැදිලි සහතිකයක් ලබා දීලා තිබෙනවා. ඒ නිසා ඒ තත්ත්වය පිළිබඳව ලංකාවේ ජනතාව කලබලයට පත්විය යුතු නැහැ.
And that wraps up tonight's edition of First at 9. Thank you for watching. Good night.